These are 7 real, physical objects sitting in museums right now that mainstream science still struggles to fully explain. Each one represents a level of technological knowledge that, according to everything we understand about history, simply should not have existed when it was made. In 1901, sponge divers off the Greek island of Antikythera pulled a corroded lump of bronze from a shipwreck from the Roman era. For decades, nobody understood what they had found. It took until 1959 for Yale physicist and historian of science Derek de Solla Price to publish a serious study. What he found stopped the academic world cold. The Antikythera mechanism is an ancient analog computer built around 100 BCE. It contains at least 30 interlocking bronze gears and was designed to calculate the positions of the sun and moon, track the Olympic Games cycle, and predict solar and lunar eclipses decades in advance. The next machine of comparable mechanical complexity does not appear in the historical record until the astronomical clocks of 14th century Europe, a gap of roughly 1,400 years. In 2006, researchers published a study in Nature using 3D X-ray tomography to read inscriptions hidden inside the device. Those inscriptions confirmed it tracked at least 3 separate astronomical cycles simultaneously. The mechanism is at the National Archaeological Museum in Athens. It is not disputed. It is accepted by mainstream science as real, and it remains the most sophisticated mechanical device known to survive from the ancient world. Around 170 swords have been found across Europe bearing the same inscription, the name Ulfberht, with a cross on either side. They date to roughly 800 to 1000 CE. Metallurgist Alan Williams of the Wallace Collection in London found something that should have been impossible. The steel in a genuine Ulfberht contains a carbon content of approximately 1% and has slag impurities so low they are nearly undetectable. This is crucible steel, the same ultra-refined process used in the legendary Wootz steel of Persia and Central Asia. European blacksmiths of the Viking Age could not produce this. Bloomery furnaces of the period could not reach temperatures high enough to liquefy iron, which is required to remove impurities. Most medieval swords were brittle and prone to snapping. A genuine Ulfberht was flexible, strong, and held an edge. European metallurgy did not reliably catch up until the Industrial Revolution, roughly 800 years later. The mainstream explanation is that the steel was traded into Scandinavia via the Volga River route from craftsmen who already knew how to make it, which raises its own question: how much advanced material moved through the ancient world that we simply have not found yet? This Roman cup at the British Museum looks ordinary until the light changes. In reflected light, it appears green. Put a light source inside it, and it glows deep amber red. Made in Rome around the 4th century CE, the cup was examined under a microscope in 1990. Scientists found that the craftsman had embedded gold and silver particles into the glass, particles measuring approximately 70 nanometers in diameter. 70 nanometers is smaller than a wavelength of visible light. The Romans had, whether deliberately or accidentally, worked with matter at the nanoscale. This is, by definition, nanotechnology. The particle size produces the color shift, a phenomenon modern physics did not explain until the 20th century. In 2013, researchers at the University of Illinois found that the light-shifting properties were so precise that a modern replica of the structure could theoretically function as a biosensor. Whether the Romans understood any of the science is unknown. That they achieved it is not in dispute. In the courtyard of the Qutb complex in Delhi, there is an iron pillar that has been standing outdoors, exposed to rain, heat, and humidity for approximately 1,600 years. It shows almost no rust. The pillar stands roughly 7 meters tall and weighs around 6 tons. It was erected during the Gupta Empire, most likely during the reign of Chandragupta II in the late 4th to early 5th century CE. R. Balasubramaniam of the Indian Institute of Technology, Kanpur, published analysis showing the pillar's corrosion resistance comes from an unusually high phosphorus content, approximately 0.25%, which creates a thin protective film on the surface that prevents further rusting. Conventional wrought iron of the period should not have produced metal this pure at this scale. Western industrial metallurgy did not consistently achieve corrosion-resistant iron until modern alloys in the 20th century. In 1936, German archaeologist Wilhelm Koenig found a clay jar near Baghdad, roughly 13 centimeters tall. Inside was a copper cylinder wrapped around an iron rod, sealed with asphalt. Koenig published a hypothesis in 1938. He proposed the jar was an ancient electrochemical cell, a battery. When filled with an acidic liquid like wine or vinegar, replicas produce approximately 1.1 volts of electricity. The jar dates to between 250 BCE and 224 CE during the Parthian period. Mainstream archaeology's position is that it was likely used to store scrolls or small objects. No wires, no circuits, no associated electrical components have ever been found. Without a system, the battery hypothesis remains unproven. Alternative researchers argue the design is too specific to be accidental and point to certain ancient artifacts as evidence of electroplating. That connection has not been established. The jar is held at the Iraq Museum in Baghdad. In 1850, British archaeologist Austin Henry Layard excavated the ancient Assyrian city of Nimrud in what is now northern Iraq, and found a small piece of polished rock crystal, oval, roughly 38 millimeters across, dating to around 750 BCE. It is now at the British Museum. Its polish is precise enough to produce approximately 3 times magnification. Mainstream explanations include decorative inlay or focusing sunlight to start a fire. Astronomer Giovanni Pettinato and author Robert Temple argued it was part of a larger optical instrument, possibly a telescope. Mainstream scholarship does not accept this. What is not disputed is that the Assyrians had the grinding and polishing capability to produce a functional optical lens nearly 2,700 years ago. Whether they knew what they had made remains an open question. More than 100 of these objects have been found across the former Roman Empire, mostly in Gaul and along the Rhine and Danube frontier. They date to the 2nd through 4th centuries CE. Each is a hollow bronze object with 12 pentagonal faces, circular holes of different sizes on each face, and small knobs at the corners. They range from roughly 4 to 11 centimeters across. The genuinely strange part is that not a single Roman written source mentions them. No letter, no inventory, no law, no poem records them. In a civilization that documented almost everything, these objects are completely absent from the written record. Theories include surveying instruments, artillery rangefinders, glove knitting tools, candle holders, and religious objects. None has been accepted as definitive. They are the only objects on this list where even the most skeptical scholars agree. We do not know what this is. 7 objects. 7 different civilizations, different centuries, different continents. And in each case, the same problem, a level of precision, material science, or mechanical understanding that history says should not have been there yet. The mainstream explanation for most of these is not ancient astronauts or lost civilizations. It is something more interesting, that ancient human beings were more capable than we have given them credit for, that knowledge was gained and lost across centuries, and that we are still slowly figuring out what they knew. The objects are real, the questions are open, and museums around the world are still running tests.